It's called To the Writer and the Reader. I want to be inside of you, the way a tree reaches into the air, the spread fingers of its breathing arms, drawing down life and energy to mix earth and water into hardness and strength and fruit. I want you to think of me when you craft another rhyme pulled innocently from a tongue that knows too much language and craft to pretend these lines are anything but incantations. Let me be the words on your lips when no other arguments can prevail.
Come on down. Yep. This is tag team poetry now.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a poem from my 4th book that's coming out in, I think, 2 weeks. Woo. My editor is to be believed. Neolithic Imaginings. Swinside, holy engineering. We listen, learn relationship, study the patterns of fish scales, flower petals, of the stars above and the rocks under our feet. Touch the spirals of a pine cone, a snail's shell, a ram's horn. See the never-ending patterns of leaves, tree branches, and limbs. Closer now, an apple's core, beeswax's cells, measurement, solid and sure. We bounce off these patterns, molding, rotting, blossoming, and changing, sharing stories, vessels of particles, bumptious, desirous of connection and understanding as we align ourselves with the stars' patterns, those sublime circles. We listen as the light's steady telling shows the measurements, and so we mark the earth, dig and secure stones where lichens will grow, where cracks will form, where ancient memories are embedded. Mark where they will comfortably live in the soil, come to know us through our song and breath, give them a new home in this circle. Time, cyclical ancestor, is like a snake's skin, is a slow motion, deep dance affording the stone's wiser agency. We learn to see with these first eyes of the world, in dialogue with the sky, as we continue to lay this circle, this unity, potential. We make this seed, move its shape 60 times, carve these rough stones that scuff and callous themselves in our heart, bring ourselves closer to sky's energy. This magic is embodied in our bones as we become a key, turning in a lock, laid in this circle, knitted intimacy.
Darwin.
So the last one, I don't know if you figured out by now, I think he has already. I was the fool, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the clues here are a lot simpler on this one. Okay, this is part of that series. They raised me over the Alabama River, arching my steel ribs against an indifferent sky, planting my concrete feet into Selma's soil like a verdict. Like a signature on something already decided, they engraved onto me a name meant to cast a long shadow, a man who once commanded soldiers in fear. I knew nothing of his world, beyond the workers tightening the bolts along my spine, the whispers between iron and wire. But I understood enough. I was built to remind the living who held power here. For years, I held it well. Deputies turned people away at both my ends. Families crossed me homeward bound, shoulders bent with the specific weight of a country that had made up its mind, a judgment passed down without trial. Cars, rumbling confidently across my back, their drivers certain, easy, and assured that nothing beneath my arches would ever dare to change. That everything they'd always known would forever be secured. I bore it all. I bore it quietly. I felt the press of every soul, every silence, and I lived up to the name. I was erected to sustain. Then one morning, early, still, and strange, the footsteps changed. Soft at first, small clusters near my western rail, hushed voices, determined faces, carrying something I could feel in my joints before I had a name for it. When they sang, the sound rose through my suspension like a flame, a challenge building bolder than my beams were built to bear. I felt something shift, like they no longer saw me as something to fear. They came in force, hundreds walking 2 by 2, treading all over me, as if I were simply a road and not a warning. As they climbed on my deck, I felt their defiance press through concrete and cable, through bolt and bearing, through every support and scaffold. They were not supposed to rise this far. I knew what waited on the other side. I had always known. So I ushered them forward, along the long arc of a moral universe, carried them toward justice, toward the troopers and the horses, the batons and the bullwhips, the nightsticks and the canines. At my crest, the charge came like a wave. Bodies struck my pavement hard. Tear gas replaced song. I held firm. But I would be lying if I said I never swayed. If I said that for the first time since my making, I didn't feel something close to doubt, something shifting in the iron of my certainty. The irony that 2 days later, they would return. Then again, in numbers my engineers never accounted for, the irony that federal forces stood where troopers once held ground. The marchers crossed with heads unbowed, each footstep falling like something being confirmed, like a declaration spoken aloud. The irony? Everyone already known they earned it. I've been built to uphold a world already slipping away beneath me, named for a man who tried to halt history. But on those days, history was in the making. With every step they engraved into me, every voice that rose and wouldn't break, I became the road that freedom traveled on anyway. Bloody Sunday, March 1965.
Dawn.
This is one I have read a lot before. And I wrote it based on a prompt Dr. Galloway gave us in class about the 7 deadly sins, where we had to choose one but not say which one we chose, although I think the one I chose would be pretty obvious. A poem about red. All I see is red. The ruins fall around me with eerily familiar faces creeping out from under the rubble. All I see is red. I walk closer to a corpse of a close friend and see her face dripping with candy apple blood. All I see is red. I look around at the others and see all my friends and family lying motionless. All I see is red. I did this. I don't want to see red anymore. Make it stop. Thank you.
I'll read the last poem.
Okay.
In the last poem that I read, Riding Towards Sparta, we saw Menelaus living in the shadow of his brother Agamemnon. And so Agamemnon doesn't marry Helen, for those of you that don't know the story. Instead, he marries Clytemnestra. And so I imagine, how in the world does this happen? My poem, Agamemnon's Engagement. Brother, you will think me fickle. Nothing new. That sister, Clytemnestra, she's got brass. I go hard just seeing her send a servant cringing to the stables, or survey a room along her subtle nose. I'll have her. I know she has her eye on me. I'll take her to heights she's never known. She will ogle what's beneath this armor, beg for more. You take the other. I will be your advocate. But no, you'll have the poorer choice. You will be bound to Sparta. Better that, though, than you living in my shadow back in Mycenae. As brother kings, we'll have everything we see. Thank you.